AC-80s? So I'm going to tell you something right now. Autocannons, by far and away, are bad. Ah, the still wind. Okay. So I mentioned this on a stream before, but I will mention this again now. The following autocannons are bad. The following autocannons are worthless. The following autocannons are good. So, what this means is, these are all terrible. They're bad for multiple different reasons. So, the Rapier is actually arguably one of the best autocannons. And the reason why is because it is such a low power score and it has a decent energy investment of 4 that you can actually get enough of them at a low enough power score that you can actually reliably deal some decent damage. Oh, thank you, Hugo. It's all good, my man. Don't worry about it. So, the Rapier, surprisingly enough, sticks out only because of the fact that it takes 4 energy and has low power score. The Storm, believe it or not, of all of these autocannons, of these autocannons, the best one is this one. It's not great. Okay? Just so we're clear, it is not great. But of all of these autocannons, it is the best, and there's a reason why. The reason why is because if you look at the energy drain, it is 4. It actually comes with a damage perk, which is good. It has the same hitbox as its predecessor. Fine. So, why do the rest of these autocannons fall right off? So, first and foremost, let's start with, oh, I don't know, the Whirlwind. The Whirlwind was one of the first purple autocannons in all of Crossout. And it was also one of the original purple weapons in all of Crossout. This was back when this is a weapon for another time. Literally, you're looking at a fossil. The Whirlwind's damage does not compete with modern day Crossout. Modern day weapons that come in battle passes, modern day weapons that you see everywhere, modern day everything will slap the shit out of this gun. It does not matter where you are in the game. So the idea is this thing has a perk that says you do more damage the further away your opponent. Here's the funny thing. Have you guys ever seen the W key? Like, did you know that if you just hold down the W key, you can just drive directly at these people. And as you get closer, their damage gets lower. They do less and less damage the closer you are to someone using Whirlwind. That's ridiculous. It's the same thing with the Storm, but the Whirlwind costs 5 energy. This thing takes 5 energy. 5 energy for this. This costs 4. You can make an argument for this. This costs 5. That is so freaking brutal. Then you go to the Stillwind. Here's something that's interesting about the Stillwind compared to the Whirlwind. They both use very similar weapon models, but here's the kicker. You only get... Oh my god, it's like 7 more hit points? What is this? But why? 7 more hit points. But, and this is hilarious, the Stillwind per hit does more damage than the Whirlwind at 300 meters. So the perk on the Whirlwind is entirely supplanted by just the Stillwind shooting at any distance. Okay, so that's alright. The perk on the Stillwind is completely useless. It doesn't do anything. This has no perk. So you've got a weapon that fires slowly. Oh, and also every single autocannon in this line has insane recoil. The recoil on these guns is insane. It is actually a problem. So, this line is all bupkis. It's all bupkis. You can't use these things on wheels. You can't use... Because you actually run the risk of flipping your build over at low power score with the Rapiers and with the Storms. It's ridiculous. You run the risk of having the same problem with the Whirlwind as well. You can't do a small build with any of these guns. So you have to be big, and that would be okay. But your firepower is garbage. Like, it doesn't make sense. AC-80 Stillwind. If I recall correctly, it does like 28 or something a shot. No, wait. It's 28 or 38 or something. So, 102. Divide that by 3. And that's the damage it does individually. So, 30... So, just over 33. They do 33 point something damage a shot. And they're 2,000 power score. And look how fast they overheat. And the reason why this thing isn't jumping around is because it's on 4 tank tracks. Like, it's just genuinely poor. It's just genuinely a poor gun. It's unfortunate. It's just unfortunate. So this entire line is completely bad. This is the best one, but that doesn't mean much. Bad line. Now let's go off to the offshoots. You've got the Therm, and you've got the Joule. The Therm sprays damage. It's cute. But there's problems with it. As always. So, the Therm is cute because it sprays damage like a machine gun. Well, okay, so is that cool? Yeah, that can be cool. The problem is, one, it's inaccurate. You cannot choose where your damage goes. This is a big problem over distances. Over distances of... Oh yeah, and also look at that recoil. To see how it's A, pushing the hover back, but also B, because of the kick up, it's actually hard to maintain on target. C, notice how it's hitting anything. It's hitting the target, but it's hitting in different places. The final thing of note, and this is very important, it does 9 damage per shot. So this thing fires a bunch of 9 damage shots across the battlefield, but you're like, wait, hold on, look at all the damage. Well, that's because there's a minor splash damage. So it's a minor splash effect. It makes it look like it's doing tons of damage, when in reality, you're not doing critical damage to anything. And that plays against this weapon mightily. So you've got a remarkably inaccurate weapon that's doing a very minute amount of damage over a great swath of components. And that's the Therm. You can end up in a gunfight with someone forever and not remove anything from them. It's actually quite interesting. Not good. Which brings us to the Hermit? No. I can never remember the name of this thing. Which brings us to the Joule. When I saw it, I immediately knew what it was. The Joule. So the Joule is interesting because it has a lower rate of fire than the Therm, but it does way more damage per hit. Like, way more damage. This thing does 27 damage with only 2 of them. So this thing, if I recall correctly, does 5 or 4 more damage per shot. Like, it does like 14 or something. 27, 8, 4, 4 is 8. Yeah, it does like nearly 14. It does 13.5 damage, right? So the Joule, surprisingly, even though it fires slower, actually does way more damage. So that's good. The problem is it is still as inaccurate as all get out. Look at that. It just sprays damage everywhere. You can't maintain where you want your shots to be. So it has the same problem. It does explosive damage, which is the other problem. Explosive damage has its benefits, or blast damage. Blast damage has its benefits, and it has its drawbacks. So the benefit of blast damage is you can damage multiple parts. That's a given. Well, then what's the drawback? So notice how all of these things, if you look at them, trade parameters, and you look at the parameters, they all do blast damage, pure blast. They don't do bullet damage, they do blast damage, which bullet damage is piercing, which is to say any damage overflow goes straight through. Blast damage sends damage everywhere, which sounds good, but the problem is that blast damage has a linear fall off based on distance traveled and based on maximum blast range. The maximum blast range of the Therm is 3 pins. So what that means is anything that is directly hit, this is the same with the Therm as well as the Joule. Anything directly hit by the Therm or Joule takes full damage. In the case of the Joule, that's 13.5 damage. In the case of the Therm, it's going to be 9. So it takes that damage. Anything 1 pin away takes, because its maximum blast radius is 3 pins, 2/3 of whatever damage it would have done. 2/3 of that. So 2/3 of 9 for the Therm is 6. And then finally, at its peak, or at the furthest distance that it's going to travel, it's going to take 1/3, which is 3. So parts up to 3 pins away are going to take up to 3 damage, 6 damage, or the full 9 damage, based on the distance away from the actual impact point. It's very, very bad, because you can block these with structural parts. Structural parts will block them entirely, and won't even let damage through at all, and you won't even see any damage at all, so these are very bad. The Joule is slightly better than the Therm. They're both bad. So far we've got best, still bad, worthless, Worthless. Better than this one, but still bad. Just still bad. Which brings us to the last two autocannons on the list. These are both great. They're both just great. They're great. They're just great. Why? So the Cyclone is interesting. Cyclone's damage is not very high for what it is. In fact, it's less than the Still Wind per hit, if I recall correctly. So while it does less damage per hit, because it does 63 with 3 of them, meanwhile the other one would do 63 with 2 of them, the advantage that the Cyclone has, even though it does blast, has all the same problems as the other one is, oh, wait a minute, hold on a second, it's a full auto weapon. And its accuracy, even though it is penalized, is not that bad. So this gun can chunk. It will strip people over distances, and it picks up the longer it fires. That's its perk. So it actually isn't that bad. It does more damage more quickly. And that's all it took to bring autocannons in line. The other one, which is S tier, by the way, spoiler alert, most likely the best autocannon, is the Whirl. The Whirl has 457 durability. This is compared to 661 of the legendary version. It chunks. It's got a perk that says if there are 2 or more enemies trying to rush you, screw that noise. Your damage is increased by 30%. This is a very, very good weapon. It's the best autocannon, in my opinion. I don't think that there's another autocannon that comes close. And unlike every other autocannon here, that's not blast damage, it's bullet damage. Well, what's the difference? Well, bullet damage follows standard damage pass-through mechanics, yada yada yada. It means that there's no AoE component to it. It's only going to do damage to the part that it hits, and if there is any overflow damage, meaning it hits a small part, and the damage will continue up to 7 pins to hit the next part in line. We're going to go with Ye Old Whirl. Are Whirls viable on heavy builds? By the way, did you see that? Did you see how much damage this did in one shot? Watch this. 94. Like, this thing just blazes damage out. Blazes damage out. Just blazes it out. This thing will shred people apart because of the fact that it just does so much damage in each singular individual bullet. So each individual bullet is bringing so much power, and it doesn't spray. It's real damage. It's not like the Therm, and it's not like the Joule, where the damage that you see is, oh. Yeah, Hugo's correct. Basically, yes, you can do, you abso-damn-lutely can do heavy builds with these. And in fact, this was the meta. One of the primary metas in the arena, I'm certainly sure everyone should remember. This is the arena meta. So this is the thing that showed up that rocked the arena directly into the ground, because it combined the Whirl's 30% damage bonus that it naturally gets when people get close to you, and you can see them lighting up in the lower left, lower right hand corner right above the gun. So right now, none of the guns have the perk. One of the guns has the perk. 2, 3, all the guns have the perk, right? Are we still talking about autocannons? Yes, we're still talking about autocannons. But this is basically a wheeled build using what appears to be hermits, using a heavy cabin, using an S tier autocannon. And this build, as simple and as dumb and as Borg cube ass looking as it is, bullied the arena into the ground. It's so crazy. The poor accuracy on this is negated by the fact that you simply use your W key to drive into them. You just W at them. That's it. You just drive into them and hold down left mouse button, and that is all you need to do. It's a dead simple build that works unbelievably well, like far too well. Doesn't seem like it much, and it doesn't seem like much because it's not much, but believe it or not, when you have 4,000 hit points bearing down on you, it is. Like, if you're not missing your shots, you're going to strip them far before they're going to strip you. You're just going to aim at their guns and then be like, oh no, you're screwed. What's that? Oh no, you're screwed. You're just dead. It's just crazy. But yeah, this was the 9K arena meta, where everybody was going for the 9K. But yeah, no, there you go. You can definitely make a heavy wheel build. And there are autocannons that can do it. You can also make a heavy walker build that uses whirls as well, though I've yet to see one of those that's terribly good. But yeah, no. There you go. That's a quick rundown of autocannons, the worst class of weapons in the game, literally being propped up by these two stilts. None of these things are here. Just ignore them. Ignore them. Don't put your money into them. Don't waste your time getting good at these. Ignore them. These are the two. These two are both DPS weapons, by the way. They're not precision DPS weapons, but they don't need to be. They're just really good. That's the Whirl and the Cyclone. Both of them, phenomenal guns. I would say the Cyclone's like A tier, and the Whirl's like S tier.